Let's keep it here. Who else would it be? This is the Bitcoin brief for April 2nd. This is a Wednesday. Hope you're having a good day. We're kind of in the middle, slightly to the second. We're in the second half of today. We have about 4 to 5 hours left in the market. We're going to take a look at how this has responded. One of the reasons this is kind of a delayed. I usually do this either earlier in the mornings or really late in the evening, at least as far as U.S. time goes. One of the reasons I delayed it is because of all the tariff news. I wanted to kind of see how that reacted. It reacted somewhat decently. Right now, at the time of this recording, the stocks are getting ready to close just a little bit. So we'll see how that may or may not respond. But we're going to take a look at this. And as you guys know, we're going to spend most of our time here for Bitcoin, but we're also going to include Ethereum and Solana. I think it's a big part, a big reference point as far as the whole market. Getting those three really kind of gets you a good context of the market. So despite the fact that I've rebranded this to Bitcoin Brief, we are going to focus on those three coins. So let's get started here. So on the daily, so actually I'll go very quickly to the weekly here. We talked about this. We had a close within the zone. This range here between 80,005 and 86.2 is really the reference point that we've kind of had. We're working with. We're currently above that zone. So if we can get above that for the rest of the week, we still have plenty of time in the week. We got a little over 4 days. That will do pretty well. Now, I also want to make mention that we are officially in quarter two. I will not cover the quarter here in this video, but I will make a quarterly analysis probably tomorrow. I think that's kind of what I'm looking at because I need to prepare some resources for that and looking at transaction data as well because we hit the second biggest quarter in Bitcoin history as far as Bitcoin transactions. And so I think there is a somewhat divergence, so to speak, in its activity versus its performance. It's performing pretty poorly compared to its activity. Okay, so I will save that for the quarterly report. And if you want to follow my quarterly report, follow me on YouTube, subscribe, get your notifications on, and wait for that one. But as far as this goes, we're still technically within the range. The way I operate on this is like until this weekly is closed, I don't consider this a break yet. It needs to break above and close on the candle. We have 4 days, 5 hours to work with that, but it is looking promising. It needs to go up a little bit more. I would prefer get above this lower marker here at 87 163. So basically 87.2. More or less. We do have the bullish consolidation still going on the A-rune. That's about a 50% margin on that, so that's pretty solid. You want something that's 50 or above, and RSI is floating above 50, which is also what we want. If we get the RSI above 50, that's a good sign of itself. And when you're looking at weekly time frames and higher, when you cross the 50, that is a very big indicator that momentum is performing well. A lot of people want to dismiss RSI because everybody uses it, and therefore it's just kind of diluted, or it's for the plebs, right? But that's not really what's going on. The reality is it's one of the most used indicators because it does do well. It gives you a good history, and also too, don't assume that everybody, even if they use the same indicator, that everybody's using it properly. Out of 100 people, maybe only 5 of those people are using it to their advantage and profitable about that. So keep that in mind, is that you need to really understand what you're using with that. So anyway, that is basically the weekly on that. It's going pretty good. If we close above the weekly, or if we close above the zone on the weekly, above the RSI, everything, that's going to be good. Let's go to the daily here, kind of see where we're at. We're still, we backtrack a little bit on this. This was performing pretty decently earlier today. Kind of backtrack just a little bit. I don't think the market's really, it's not doing anything in particular in my opinion. There's nothing to get excited about for today. But this is also why I wanted to get this 87.6 or 87.200 basically, is because this is where this key zone area is on the daily, and so we kind of have that working with. We do have a trend line that it depends how you want. If this is not respected, this is looking pretty good. Otherwise, we have to tilt this up just a bit. Either way, it's going to be contextual, so I don't really hold that too much weight on that. We did cross on the bearish side on the A-rune. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. When we cross upward, when there's a bearish cross, it's usually a sign that that trend is weak. So the bears are a little weak here. And also, too, if this comes back down like these usually do, because you kind of have these triangle formations, you're going to get something like this, where you're going to have a bullish consolidation opportunity. So this is good for the bulls, actually. So I said a lot of back and forth jargon, but what you need to know is this. If bears don't do something within 2 days, bulls are taking over again. Okay, that's how the cross consolidation works. If the cross happens, and so this is the black line, which means the bear line, right? So if the bears don't do something, because right now the trend is favoring them, but if they don't take advantage of that, then the bulls are going to take over. So that's kind of and I really compare this to American football. Okay, so if you're not familiar with American football, you're gonna have to look this up. But when a team gets possession of the ball, they have 4 opportunities. It's first down 10, second down 7, third down whatever, and then by the fourth down, if they don't have enough yards, and if they don't feel comfortable continuing to run the ball, they give it away. They have to kick it away. Okay, and that's exactly how the Avon works, and it's very similar to American football as far as how that works. So I think that's a good example. And so RSI above 50 is also another sign that the momentum is shifting. So even if bears could take a chance right here, the momentum is not currently in favor of that. Now, I will say the 50 line has not been a very respected line on the RSI for Bitcoin, really ever since the beginning of February. So just keep that with a grain of salt. Hit or miss performance really all this year. It did better before. So we'll see where that goes. But I think this is looking good. It's looking better. I was expecting a much more bearish day than we got. But looking good. I do think we need to get above this 87,163 or 87,200, as I prefer to round up for these situations. So let's go to Ethereum. I marked out this long position here, I think the last time we discussed this, and we're looking at a reclaim here. We're not quite above this zone. We still need to get above that. If we can get above that 1939 or 1940, that I think is the trigger. We still need to get that. It's looking pretty good. We just need to get a little bit better with this. We have the bullish consolidation, no momentum flip on this. Really nothing else needs to be said for Ethereum. But I do think, there's a lot of debate whether Ethereum needs to perform well in order for the market to perform well as far as altcoins. And I agree with that. I do think, as much as I don't really like Ethereum like I used to, it needs to perform well. Because the odds of an altcoin market happening when Ethereum goes up is actually very high, right? And so we had sort of an anomaly for the past year or so where Solana and a lot of these other tokens went up, but Ethereum did not. And I think that's also reflective of the market. The sentiment is all over the place. It's very shifted. It's a lot of people, the current sentiment for a lot of people is very dismissive of crypto and Bitcoin, and this is the time to get back in when people are kind of fading this in a sense. So, but Ethereum needs to perform. We'll see if it does. 1939, 1940 is going to be that trigger. Solana is up about almost 3% here. Needs to get above the zone. Still kind of struggling. It's actually struggling more than Ethereum, I would say, based off its structure, not necessarily its performance. Actually, probably its performance as well, but it's not saying much, right? So, need to get above that zone to get this trigger. And it's probably the laziest of the three. And so we'll see. We got the Aaron bearish cross here, where we don't have it on Ethereum, so that's another indicator. I think Solana is kind of following Bitcoin just a little bit, and that may be a good thing if Bitcoin performs well, but that might be a bad thing because people will probably follow Bitcoin instead. I still think Bitcoin is the main, it's always going to be the main focal point of crypto, right? So this will depend on whether or not Solana follows that, or it just decides to, follows it as a good thing, or follows it as a sense of it doesn't have anything to perform on its own like Ethereum could. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. I do want to quickly cover Solana ETH just to see that comparison. We're still in this channel here. I didn't talk about this in the previous Bitcoin brief, but I talked about this before, that we're still kind of in this channel, and until we get out of this, we're not going to get many answers as far as what's better, Solana or Ethereum. And so If you want Ethereum to get better, this needs to break down this line, which we probably could do. It's probably more likely to do based off of the probabilities, not necessarily real-term performance. But we'll see where that goes. This could go either way. Um, as far as prices go, you're looking at maybe like a 7%, anywhere between 6 to 10%, depending on when that occurs. So we'll see how that goes. We do have a bearish consolidation leading into a low effort bearish cross. So that doesn't really tell us anything. That just tells us that Ethereum will take over, but doesn't mean it'll perform well. So we'll see where that goes. But that's Solana Ethereum as well. So anyway, that is the Bitcoin brief. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think as far as the rebranding of this. There's a few different reasons for that, but let me know what you think. For those of you in my Apex group, you have another video coming up next that details some other altcoins in the market, opportunities that we can see, and what we can look forward to for the rest of the week. So let me know what you think. I'll see you next time.